Hello, everybody. Today, I want to talk about something interesting I was just talking about the other night. How we are not done evolving, right? And this whole idea, this whole conversation started off with the prompt that sometimes it feels like government, all these ideologies, these beliefs, they kind of seem futile, obsolete. It's like that saying, all empires rise and fall, you know? And because of that pattern of ebb and flow, rising and falling, it seems futile, to participate in that or to believe in the effectiveness or necessity of government, right? But let's take a step back to caveman times, where Neanderthals, Homo erectus, and us, Homo sapiens. Of course, there's much more species of humans, but I don't have them all at the top of my noggin. But it took us a lot of time, thousands of years, to even rise to the top of the human species, as it took thousands of years, so much time for Homo sapiens to rise up top, right? And then that was just the evolution of the body, right? And I wasn't even done then. Then we had fire. And once we cooked food, our brains got a little bigger. And then was the evolution of the mind, right? To where after that, we made the pyramids shortly after that. And then, well, not shortly, a lot of time. Human growth is exponential, right? How from the fire, it took a lot of time to get to the pyramids. It took a little shorter time to start working with iron and then steel and then flying in the sky, right? It's human growth is exponential in that sense. But as human evolution or the physical evolution of humans, I'm not going to say it's capped, right? Obviously, maybe in like a million years, if humans are still around, probably look different. But let's take a second to think of our collective spiritual and intellectual evolution. I've already touched on that, saying how the human growth is exponential, right? That's the intellectual evolution, right? We have advanced exponentially in that field. And then there's the spiritual evolution, right? And it's tied to the intellectual. They can never be separated. Where how our societies, how we cooperate, how it benefits the soul, and what we extract from the soul. Some societies, some cultures, they are they create more Da Vinci's rather than, let's just say, Stalin's, right? And different societies and their belief systems, their ideologies, they're geared for certain things, right? And some of them, they're not going to last forever, you know? And speaking of evolution, think about it as survival of the fittest. Empires rise, ideologies rise, beliefs rise, and sometimes they fall, but in the amongst those ruins stands the beliefs and ideologies that were the strongest, right? Think about it this way: the Roman Empire was strong, the British Empire was stronger. The British Empire was strong, but the American Empire was stronger, right? Each time, though they do fall, they get stronger in some sense, either through brute force, intellectual force, spiritual force, right? Let's think about these. Let's say the three dimensions of human existence: the physical, intellectual, and spiritual, right? And some empires, ideologies, beliefs, they grow the intellectual lopsided with the spiritual, right? This is the intellectual and this is the spiritual. But so this empire, which is only intellectual, is going to collapse, right? Empire that's only physical is going to collapse. Just like Alexander the Great said that what is won by the sword, only won by the sword, this isn't verbatim, but what is won by the sword needs to be balanced with love and wisdom, or else it'll just collapse, it'll vanish. And so, in this ebb and flow that we find ourselves in, this what seems to be just a cycle of rise and fall, right? Let's take a step back and look at the big picture. Eventually, when the humans' last empire, their last society, what if there is to be one domineering one, if there is to be one society that is left at the end of human life, it will be the one that dominated the rest. That doesn't mean it has to be the most fair or just society, but it'll simply just be the one that dominated over the rest. Now, don't think about that too pessimistically, right? Let's give humanity the benefit of the doubt, where in the efforts we employ ourselves in, if we are in a purely physical society that dominates all others through force of arms, those typically don't last that long. And then those who are purely intellectual, they will, through technology, that that is a tough one because we live at pretty much the dawn of the technological age. And I guess the greatest empire to have fallen recently would have been the Soviet Union. But then the spiritual societies, right? Those ones are the most enduring, right? Look at Christianity, Islam. A lot of religions have been around for a very long time, these religious societies. And that is because they harnessed the spiritual aspect of humanity, right? And my whole point being in pointing this out is that the ideology or the belief that harnesses the spiritual and intellectual and the physical, that will be the last society to stand. And that is how we are giving humans the benefit of the doubt, because we are not saying that the purely physical brute force society is going to be the last one standing, right? It will be the one that, yes, it has physical brute force that is immensely strong, but that state of immense strength owes itself to the intellectual and spiritual capacity of the society's people. And so, do not give up or lose hope or faith in this process of our collective evolution, right? Because if we think of the small picture, it's easy to see that, man, like there's no point in this, right? Like all empires rise and fall. But if it ever seems that we are in a dark time, that a way of life that we find comfortable will soon disappear, don't fret, right? Because if an ideology or belief system collapses, that only means that a stronger one will rise. Sure, it may be a brutal one, a physical society that enacts its beliefs through brute force and tyranny. But as I said, we're giving humans the benefit of the doubt here, right? And let's say that these physical societies, they are prone to collapse. A more intellectual and spiritual one that with the capacity to physically domineer over the tyrannical society, that one will win, right? So, giving humanity the benefit of the doubt, giving us the benefit of the doubt, all of our efforts are not futile. We have the capacity to create new ideologies, new beliefs that will harness the beautiful spiritual aspects of our life, that will harness the power, the wholesome power of the intellectual mind, and discipline those two aspects with the physical being. And so that ideology and belief that harnesses all of those, that will be the last one standing. That will be the society that, because it harnesses all three aspects, isn't a tyrannical one. Is it one with just brute force? It has harnessed the intellectual being, and so the intellectual minded people will believe in it. It has harnessed the spiritual being, so everybody feels the love that society, and remind you that society is a group of people. And so a group of people that harnesses the spiritual being will love each other because they discipline themselves. They are not susceptible to collapse from some brute force society. And so, if there ever is to be a government, an ideology, a belief that collapses, it is because it has been imbalanced in some way. And the three aspects I have mentioned, they are inseparable. If a society is to be lacking in the physical, they will be taken over by some force that is more physical than them. They're lacking in the intellectual, some other society of technological superiority might triumph over them. And if a society is lacking in the spiritual realm, which I would say is the most sufferable, not sufferable, what I would say is the most insufferable society to live in, because it damns the soul. It's the society that does not embrace the spiritual realm. That's the society not worth living in. You're not going to want to die for that society, because at the end of the day, what these ideologies, governments, beliefs, what they all should do is answer our deepest needs, where it's not money, material realm, but as I mentioned, it is our collective eternal evolution. And if we focus solely on physical and intellectual, our lives will feel almost meaningless because we forget about the eternal. And what is physical is not eternal. And so, whatever you believe in, or whatever beliefs you're going to create, whatever you're going to philosophize, remember that we all need to embrace the soul, the mind, and the body and treat it with love and respect. And if we all do that collectively, we will find ourselves in that paradise that I spoke of, the final society that is humanity's peak. Thank you for watching.